Hello everyone, my name is Mary. I am going to teach you how to doodle. And doodling is fun because it could be used for all sorts of reasons, for meditation or for fun, for creating great pieces of art, or just using it while you're in a meeting just to pay attention. Sometimes doodling helps you focus. So we're going to start with, here's how I started. Early on in my life, I would just doodle. If you put a pen in front of me, I would just doodle pretty much anything. I would just be coloring on it. And I know that some people were just like that. And then I know some of you are afraid to use a pen and just doodle and scribble because you think you're not an artist. And that might be true, but I am going to make you into one when this is all over. So this is a 7-day challenge, and just for today what you're going to do is grab any old piece of paper and any old pen. I have a note card here just playing around on, and we're going to just start with a couple of ideas. So, and then I recommend whenever you're sitting around somewhere, if you're on the phone, which doesn't happen very often anymore, or if you're just watching a TV show, I recommend you doodle, just practice. So usually how I start is I'll define the page and I'll create a square, just an empty square, and then I'll divide it. When I'm teaching, here's what I do. I divide it into 3, and we'll learn 3 different patterns today. So the first pattern is what every single person can do. Every single person in the world can draw a swirl. Most people have already learned that, and if they start to doodle, that's what they usually do, is a swirl. So you can create lots of big ones or you can do some little ones, but you're going to fill in this entire little area with swirls, and you just keep going around and around. You'll see some look like they're behind others. Just keep going. So I used to doodle in and around everything. Anything that was in front of me, if you put a pen there and I wasn't paying attention, you might find that whatever it was now has doodling all over it. So I once was at my friend's house. We were chatting. I was sitting at her kitchen counter and I just picked up a pen and started doodling. And then when I turned it over 20 minutes or so later after we were done chatting, I found out it was the title to her car. So that was a bit sad. But don't leave a pen in front of me or a piece of blank paper. So there you go. We're going to just do that. We're going to swirl that whole thing. I can come back and fill that in later, but you guys should practice. And again, remember, it's only practice. I've had lots of it, so don't compare yourself to anything I'm doing. Just keep filling in swirls. All right, next one. And another thing you're going to learn is anytime you want to, if you want to access another part of the card or the piece of paper, you just turn your page. If you find it would be easier to get at some small little area, just turn your page. You'll find you want to do that with lots of the different doodles. All right, another one, pretty easy. This is another one that's pretty easy. You're just going to go, it's peaks and valleys, or mountains and valleys, whatever you want to do it, however you want to call it. That's it. Now, what we're going to do inside of that, I'm going to turn the page again so I can have access to it. On these ones, these top ones, or these side ones that open, I'm just going to draw straight lines straight across. I'm doing this pretty quickly, just to show you what it's going to look like. And again, a lot of you are going to do this with really small lines together. You're going to make it perfectly neat. And then some of you will do it how I did it, is kind of quickly. But when you're practicing, it doesn't really matter. I just want you to learn the patterns at first. So that's all we're doing, just learning the pattern. In the next videos, I'll talk about specific kind of paper or pens or pencils or markers you might want to use. All right, so watch this. I'm going to turn my paper again because I'm going to add some more dimension even to this little pattern. I'm going to follow the shape of this triangle with the same kind of lines. So it doesn't have to be perfect, because when it becomes an entire design, you won't notice that one line is not done perfectly. And it doesn't have to have the same amount of lines as, they don't have to line up with all these lines down here. You're just going to put your own in there. And you start to see some really good, this has some visual movement, which is kind of awesome. This is one of my favorite patterns. I just like the way it looks. inside a piece of art. All right, we're going to move on to one last pattern here. And this is pretty easy. Did you guys ever play dots when you were kids, where you set up a line of a couple lines of dots, and then whoever got to close the dots in got to put their initials in there? I don't know if any of you remember that. It's kind of a fun little game. Well, we are going to use that same thing. So when you set up your dots, you want to make sure that they're pretty close to the same amount distance apart and then the same distance down. And then we're just going to draw. I have to remember this and say it to myself quite often when I draw this pattern, but it's an S. It's basically an S. So we're going to go around the top to make the hook of the S, and then around the bottom to make the bottom of the S. And then we're going to do it again. We're going to go around the top of the S and under the bottom. Then we're going to just keep doing that. And this is what I say to myself: over the top, under the bottom, over the top, under the bottom, over the top, under the bottom. I can hear you guys thinking the same thing because it just starts to happen naturally. And then you're going to turn the page and you're going to do the exact same thing. Over the top and under the bottom. Over the top and under the bottom. You're just going to finish up all the squares. And you can see how this would become kind of meditative. It's just very calming because you have to focus, and focusing is kind of something I don't really like to do necessarily. My mind spins quite a bit, so it's not necessarily something I like to do, but this absolutely helps me do that. All right, so you see what happened there? Looks kind of cool. Looks like a wave. All right, so meet me back here tomorrow with a pen and a piece of paper, and I shall see you then.